Before we get started, I want to acknowledge volunteers that made this happen. Specifically, I want to call out by name Donna Doris, Tamara Gavin, Greg Matthews, and Jeremy Matthews. Also, I want to acknowledge the floral arrangement, thanks to Corbin Creek Nursery, also to Stephanie Bradley from the Our moderator for the evening is no stranger to politics. In fact, he's something of a legend here in Robertson County. Way back in 1972, he was elected for the first time to the county commission as an 18-year-old. That made him the youngest person ever elected to public office in Tennessee. A record I think that still stands. He went on to cap his political career by serving for 4 terms as Robertson County Mayor. Please welcome Mr. Howard Bradley.
Thank you, Tony. It's good to be here, and I want to welcome you to Springfield High School. I think it's been 24 years since I was actually in this room, Mr. Hurd, at our last faculty meeting before I became mayor. And 24 years ago, the clocks did not work. And I look tonight, and the clocks do not work. So don't look at the clock and think it's 6 o'clock, or you might think it's 6 a.m. But we won't keep you here quite that long. But welcome here. I'm so glad that you came out tonight to learn about these candidates in the 7th District. And I think we should probably call it the new and revised 7th District. But we are fortunate that all of Robertson County is in the 7th District. These folks have to run in many other counties and portions of counties. I don't know how you do that. It was always a struggle for me to cover Robertson County, but you have what, 14 or 8? You got 8 now. Okay, 14 was the number last week. Yes. But anyway, it's still a massive undertaking, and we are indebted to them to step out. Many of you in the room know what it's like to run for office. It is a difficult job, but it is a very, very important one. We should be very grateful that people are still willing to do it and still have the passion for service. So we're going to begin this evening by giving each candidate 5 minutes to tell you who they are, a little bit about themselves, and why they are running for office. And after that, I will have a few questions, and then I want to cut to the chase and give anyone here a chance at some point to ask a question that you might have for any one of these particular candidates. You may not ask necessarily all 5 to answer every question, but we want to give you a chance to be heard. And so we will start alphabetically like we are seated, and with our 5-minute introduction. And our first candidate is Lori Bergman.
Thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Lori Bergman. I have already met many of you, and I have to say I'm really impressed with Robertson County. Let me explain why I'm here, because I am a write-in candidate. And that's a little odd to be a write-in candidate. Let me tell you, it's really very hard to be a write-in candidate. The reason I'm doing this is because during the redistricting, out of all the candidates in the 6th and the 7th, I was drawn out and thrown into the 7th. I have been running in the 6th for 3.5 years. I won the primary in 2024. And I won 17 of the 19 counties. 4 of those counties are now in the 7th District. Okay, that's Trousdale, Macon, Davidson, and Sumner, where I live. So, I had a dilemma. We were allowed to keep running in the district that we had been running in, but when I found out that my own volunteers, my neighbors, my own county party in Sumner County could not vote for me, I couldn't even vote for me, because yes, as candidates usually vote for ourselves. I said I have to do something about this. They were disenfranchising the voters. And so I talked to the Secretary of State, and he said, well, you can run in both counties, but you gotta be a write-in candidate in one of them. So that is why I'm here. If you wanna know more about that, you can ask me later, because it's very confusing. So anyways, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I went to work one day, I was a hardworking American. I was catering, waitressing that day. I buckled over in pain and I was rushed to the hospital. That day changed my life forever. As I was thrown into the world of disability and Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, SNAP, all the benefits you need in order to survive when you're sick. I was really young and I didn't have anybody to help me. And that was when I realized what the government was for. It's for us, the people. It's to help us, the people, when we are in need. The government is a service to the people. It is not a money-making venture. It is not a way for corrupt politicians to make more money. It is for we, the people. So as I went on in my journey, I had to live in HUD housing. And I had to understand how people with disabilities and the elderly are treated when they are poor. I lived below the poverty line for many years on disability. I was living in a building. They were harming some of the people. Diesel fumes were coming into the apartments every time they turned these generators on. I tried to fix it. And I was very naive about the process, okay? But I tried to do the best I could. Well, I finally went on the news about it, and the landlord had had enough of me, calling the health department and the EPA and everybody else. And he pushed me out, and I became homeless. I've been through a lot in my life, and I've always been an unpaid advocate and activist for people. So when I decided to run for office, I was paying attention to our representatives. And right now it's John Rose in the 6th District, and we have Mr. Epps in the 6th. And I realized John Rose didn't know what he was talking about when he came to all these programs. He wanted to make them better, but actually he was destroying them because he would never have to use them. So I decided we needed more disabled people, because I do have disabilities. We also needed regular, hard-working people in Congress. And that is when I decided to run for Congress. Now this is my second time, and it's been really hard. I thought it'd be easier the second time, but it's actually been harder because of the redistricting and all that. But anyways, if you want a fighter, if you want somebody that's scrappy and is gonna fight for you in Congress the way I fought for those disabled and elderly people in that building, and didn't care if I became homeless or not, I hope you'll vote for me. Thank you.
Well, good evening, Robertson County. Thank you all for hosting this event. You all put an event on last year. It was the best attended event. We had 24 forums last year, and you guys put a great event, so no surprise we're doing another one. Thank you to Mayor Bradley, Tony, and the volunteers. Let me tell you a little bit about me and then why I'm running. Again, Darden Copeland, grew up in Virginia and moved to Nashville about 20 years ago. Met my wife, who's down here in the front row. This is our date night tonight. We're gonna go out to Mystic Picnic. They close at 10. So I want to thank her. But met my wife here, and we both started our businesses here. I got out of college in Virginia and started working for Democrats, getting them elected to office. I worked on political campaigns. I got a lot of great Democrats elected to office. I thought that's the way I make change in the world, is to get good Democrats elected. They go to the state house or to Congress, the mayor's office, wherever it may be, and make the right decisions for people. And that's who I was working for. I worked for Gephardt, I worked on Gore, Tim Kaine, Mark Warner, John Kerry, and we lost the Supreme Court decision, Al Gore did, in 2000. Then we lost the John Kerry for president race in 2004. And when we lost to George W. Bush a second time, I stepped away from politics. I thought, how much worse can it get? I said that joke last year, and I thought, now here we are, but now it's gotten even worse. I'm gonna stop making the joke, because Trump, there's no depth to which this administration will take us. It's incompetent, it's chaotic, and it's cruel. And we have to hold him accountable. There's still too many decisions. Vincent and I got into this race last year after the big, beautiful bill passed. When that passed out of the House over to the Senate, it passed the House by one single solitary vote. When they defunded NPR, one vote. It's still the same. Earlier this year, this idea that we can go to war without Congress's approval, Matt Van Epps, he was one of the deciding votes that said, no, we'll let the president do what he wants. He's a rubber stamp. We're right back to where we started last year. And that's why I'm back in this race. we got some polling out. You guys are the first to actually hear this. First time I'm saying this. We got a poll back that said we are within 5 points on Matt Van Epps. I'm the Democrat. When Afton won last year, I won Robertson County, thank you. I won Cheatham County, won Montgomery County, won a few others. And I think I can compete everywhere. When I lost, Vincent and I both, we got right behind Afton. My wife and I wrote her a check, we sent her lists, we did endorsements, I spoke for her at different events across the district. She got us really close. She came within 9. And I'm gonna pick up the mantle where she left it and carry us across the finish line. I'm running for really 3 generations of women in my life. I think about my mother, and I've told the story to many of you. When my dad started his own business, my mother took a job in a factory, working overnight so that we could have health coverage. She put dinner on the table at night, went to work, and in the morning at breakfast, she had breakfast on the table for us. And she said, oh, I'm gonna sleep, while you guys go to school. And yet we come home and our rooms were clean, beds were made, laundry was done. My mom is the strongest woman I know. And we need to make sure that we're protecting Social Security. We need to make sure that we're protecting her health coverage for her and everybody in that generation. Speaker Johnson said 2 weeks ago, we're gonna cut Social Security. And the reporter asked him, they said, are you sure you meant what you just said? He said, yes. This country is $40 trillion in debt, so we have to make cuts. Why are we $40 trillion in debt? And Matt Van Epps is going to be a rubber stamp for that. I think about my wife. She started her own medical practice, put herself through school. She has to deal with private equity that she's competing against. She has to deal with the rising cost of healthcare and employees and everything else. The cost of living for everybody, for the 2 of us, it's out of touch. And then I think about the 3rd generation of women, and that's my 6-year-old little girl, our 6-year-old little girl, Hazel. And I want to make sure that there's no politician in this country that's going to tell her who she can love, or who she can go to bed with, or anything else. She makes her own decisions, and she has to be able to live the American dream. The American dream is out of reach for too many people. And we need to make sure this is the first generation of kids, and the first generation that's being taught that, when we came up, if you work hard to do the right thing, you'll probably do better than your parents. And I don't know if that's true for this next generation. I think we all know somebody that's moved in with a parent or a loved one because the American dream is getting out of reach. I want to make sure that it's in reach for everybody in this room, every generation, and especially my daughter. Thank you all.
Thank you. Now, I promise 5 minutes is a long time. I won't be up here for 5 minutes. But again, Darden, I want to thank you again for introducing your wife. My wife's with me, so maybe I can get you to pay for dinner for both of us. I appreciate that. Again, I'm representing Vincent Dixie. I've been a state representative since 2018. I'm also the former House Caucus Chair for the House Democrats. This is a momentous occasion that we have here. I know we hear every year, this is the most important election. We can't take election off. We gotta get out there. We gotta do what we have to do. But this is truly the most important election. And I'll tell you why. So on May 15th, with the stroke of the pen, they just basically diluted the black vote in Shelby County. But they had done it in 2022 in Davidson County. So, but not only did they dilute the black vote, they took away the Democratic vote, period, in Tennessee. We won't have a voice if we don't fight for this seat. And that's why I'm running, because there's no way that you can just, with a stroke of a pen, because someone sent a tweet out, that you at a whim and take away my voting rights. And I don't know if you know this, and the whole ironic of this situation is August 6th is actually the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Voting Rights Act. That is important for us to remember. And as we lost a friend this past week, we lost several this week, but at Vonda McDaniel's funeral, Dr. Reverend Forrest Harris made a comment, and it resonated with me. He said, Representative John Lewis and James Lawson aren't even cold in their graves yet. And we're out here fighting for what they fought for 60 years ago. If it wasn't for that fight, we wouldn't even be in same room right here, right now. I wouldn't even have the opportunity that I have right now to be before you. So I take it serious. I have to fight as if my life depends on it, because it does. So yes, we do have to worry about affordability of healthcare. We do have to worry about affordable and accessible childcare. We have to worry about affordable housing. But we can do none of that if we don't have and we save democracy in Tennessee. The only way that we do that is to win. We have to win. And as we heard earlier, we lost by one vote. One vote decided a lot of things. One single solitary vote. And what I'm asking you tonight and throughout this election and your friends to go out there and vote for me, because I want to be the one vote that makes a difference for you. And I'm asking you to trust me with that vote. Trust me with that vote to vote in your best interest. Not just for me because I want a title or I want to be in this situation or I want to just be in politics. Because I do not believe in being in politics as a career. I think there's a time limit that you have to do and you have to move on. My goal is to be there, pass it on to somebody else as I'm doing in my state seat. But this is an opportunity for us to get it right. They messed up. They messed up when they consolidated this district. We have been able to talk to more people across this district that hadn't been able to talk to before. In Sumner County, in 2018, they had 2 Democrats that was running in any election, whether it was county commission, state house, mayor's race. They have 16 people running right now. 16 people. And they're not just people that are putting their names on the ballot. They're like Tamara right there. People who've been working, doing the work. And because this is the time for us not only to just flip this seat, but we can flip Tennessee. But it's gonna take a long time to do it. This is a moment that we're all upset right now, very upset. But we gotta take this moment and we gotta turn it into a movement. This movement has to last 10, 15 years because we're not going back. I'm not going back to 1960. And I hope that you're with me on this. Vincent Dixie.
Good evening, everybody. And thank you so much for inviting me here. And I thank you so much for coming to see us tonight. I'm going to tell you a little bit about why I'm running in this race. I'm running in this race because, as you heard, Mr. Copeland said that he and Mr. Dixie ran last year. You all remember that. In October of last year, then it went to Afton. I supported. Mr. Dixie is my representative, my state representative. And I want to keep him there, okay? He's good. He's good at what he does there, okay? Now, but in October of last year, things changed. Afton became the person to run. In January of this year, it was a time for somebody to run again against Epps. And on the date that they made the decision to do what they did with Memphis, I was hurt, I was crying, I felt bad. I looked to see who was running from last year because I decided I'm going to put all my time, my effort, and my money behind them. I was not going to let Van Epps walk into DC without me making a move on him. None of them, not one of them put their name on that ballot in January. I got madder. I'm gonna put it like this because I don't want to be an angry black woman. I got more passionate. And while in that passion, I got an assignment. I'm gonna run, or you're gonna run for this. And while I might be older than these guys up here, I bet you they can't fight as hard as I can. I was a council member in Nashville, Tennessee, in an area that was 72% white. it was Church of Christ. I'm a Baptist. But I'm telling you, once I got in that office, they voted me in that office. I got 2 terms, and that's all we could do until we have to go out and then come back another term. But I decided I wasn't gonna run for council anymore. And after I was defeated in something else, I decided I'm not gonna run anymore. I'm gonna help other people run. And that's what I did. I set my tail down and helped other people. I even helped Mr. Dixon. And I'm gonna help him again. Okay. So, but I'm telling you, if you want somebody that's gonna fight for you, it's gonna be me. Nobody is going to fight as hard as I am. Now you want Epps to be Van Epps, whatever, VE, whatever he wants to call himself. You want him to be on a stage with me, or you want him to be on the stage with them. They're nice. I love them. They're both real nice. I'm nice too, but not when it comes to the people. And not when it comes to the fact that we are not being taken care of. Nothing that we know from the last 4 years is in place. Everybody's happy, unhappy rather. Everybody's miserable, and they don't know why. We're distressed, we're depressed, all of that because of what's happening. And I'm asking you all to give me a chance to go and fight for you all. Because you know what? Ain't nothing like an old woman trying to fight a battle. And y'all know we need to fight, and we will fight good. And I'm here to tell you that all these things that we're going through right now, if you put me there, I'm gonna be there for you. Because I believe in being for all the people, all the time. And not when I'm feeling good, because I still don't know why none of them put their name on that ballot to fight for us in January.
I wrote this down because I wanted to make sure I got it right. I've been thinking a lot lately about where we stand, 250 years after the Declaration was signed. Those men were imperfect, they were complicated, and they built a republic where only 6% of Americans could vote. It's taken over 2 centuries of Americans protesting, voting, and sometimes even fighting to expand that right. Lately, the right to vote is under attack again. Our union is still imperfect, still complicated, but it is now ours to make it more perfect. I'm the son of a police officer and a special education teacher. I'm a veteran of the U.S. Army. I'm a current high school English teacher. I live in the rural community of Pegram, and I work in Nashville. And over the last 6 months of this campaign, I've sat down with Democrats, independents, and Republicans. And I've found common ground with every one of them. Because this isn't a fight between left and right, it's a fight between the 1% and the working class. And that working class has been splintered. It has been broken into factions, and that is on purpose. Today, American workers take home the smallest share of this country's GDP in income for the last 7 decades. Healthcare costs are at an all-time high. Investors own more housing property than at any point in this century. Grocery prices keep climbing because a handful of companies control what you pay for at the register. And this year, we're on pace to cross $40 trillion in national debt. Debt neither party has been honest with you about. Gas prices are trending up again because Trump has just called off the ceasefire with Iran. A war that Congress never sanctioned. Inflation is set to hit 5% again this year. AI companies have created a bubble greater than the one we saw in 2008 with the housing crisis. And if all that wasn't bad enough, we are set to experience the worst El Nino in human history. That's not a talking point, that's a signal to every farmer in this room that is already struggling with unnecessary tariffs, increased diesel and fertilizer costs. It is understanding that climate change is going to wreck crops and further worsen the situation in the grocery store. It's no surprise that in a recent national survey, nearly 4 in 10 Americans said they believe it will take violence to get this country back on track. That number should scare all of us. Not because people are wrong to be angry, but because they've been given no other outlet for that anger. We stand at the precipice of a political divide in our country. We stand at the precipice of a climate disaster in our country. We stand at the precipice of an economic crash that will further the economic divide between the haves and the have-nots. So I'm a teacher, and I've got a little homework for you today. Over the next hour and a half, you're going to hear a lot from us candidates. And I charge you to listen as we discuss these various topics and see who talks about the change you actually want. That is the person you should vote for. I've spent the last 6 months writing and rewriting with input from people in this district 12 bills. Making Social Security solvent, universal health care, free public college, breaking up the oligopolies, driving up your grocery bill, a real pathway to citizenship for migrants, energy independence that works for small farmers, not against them, paying off the national debt over the next 30 years, honestly, not with gimmicks. Whoever wins this primary, I'll support, because we can't afford to be divided going into November. But if you want the candidate who's pushing for the changes that we desperately need, the candidate who's not settling for some middle ground that leaves half of you behind, the candidate who's showing up by both being in the community and by leading with policy, then I hope to prove tonight that there's one clear answer. The Founding Fathers put us on the path of expanding the ruling class from the monarchy to a democracy. Our nation has had 250 years to improve on what Washington, Jefferson, Adams, Madison, Hamilton, Monroe, and so many others started. We will never see perfection, but we can make a choice on how big of a step we take towards it. We're once again in difficult times, but it is in difficult times that I want to remember the words of a great man. If you dare to struggle, you dare to win. If you dare not struggle, then damn it, you don't deserve to win. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to begin, at least my section, with affordability, something we hear so much about, specifically housing affordability. I heard a statistic today about housing. In the greater Nashville area, the median price of a home is now $535,000. And you stop and think about what the implications of that are and how unaffordable basic housing is. So far, the only thing that I have heard about that came out of the administration was to go to a 50-year mortgage. Now, we also know that the average age now when a person gets their first mortgage is age 40. So at age 90, then you will have your house paid. So obviously, we're not doing anything that is working or even pretending to work. What do you think Congress should be doing to address this crisis? And this is the bigger crisis that we've had since the Second World War in terms of housing. Ms. Burton?
Hi. I hate going first all the time. But that's what happens when your name starts with a B. Okay. It is shocking what has happened here in Tennessee. I have been here for 22 years. And I cannot believe around the pandemic what happened in my neighborhood. We had townhouses that were around $150,000. To me, that was an okay price. I'm a city girl. I came from Chicago. I've lived in LA. I've also lived out in the Philadelphia area. And $150,000 for a townhouse was pretty good. Well, within like 2 years, those were up to $250,000. So, what do I think we should do? Well, I've lived in rent control apartments, okay? And I have an idea how to stop this price gouging, because in my opinion, it is price gouging. And we have no legislation right now about price gouging. And I know it's hard because we are a capitalistic society and we allow people to make money. But I feel like we should not be able to raise the rents or the prices of houses any more than a certain increment so many times a year. And that also includes groceries and other goods. As a person who's had to use HUD housing in her life, I'm glad to see that we have built more housing like that for people. But when it comes to the regular American person who is working hard and still can't afford to buy a house, another thing we need to do is raise the wages. Okay, we have the lowest wages here in Tennessee, but yet we have some of the highest rents and housing. How is that possible? So anyways, there's a lot of things we can do, and freezing prices for a while would probably help. Thank you.
So I agree with Lori. I think that raising the minimum wage is something that we have not done since 2012. And I mentioned it in my opening statement, the American dream has become too far out of reach. Part of that is we continue to give tax breaks to billionaire corporations and individual billionaires. You and I pay more in taxes than Warren Buffett or Bezos or Elon or any of these other guys because they have loopholes to get through. We need to keep more of that money in the pockets of our teachers and our firefighters, our first responders, because if you can't afford a house until you're 40, Mayor Bradley laid it all out, it's unfathomable. That was the way to the American dream, was home ownership. When my wife and I, we went through financial accounting with Dave Ramsey. And I don't subscribe to everything that Dave Ramsey puts out there, but it was a good exercise to go through and have a budget. And that's not something that we're teaching folks right now. We need to teach financial literacy in the schools, and we need to have better access to capital. When I came off of running around and doing political campaigns and apply for a home loan, I didn't have enough credit to do it. I had to get an FHA loan. I've gone through that process, and I know firsthand, it's not simply creating more housing stock. Certainly you all in Robertson County know that because they're building, what, 90, or hundreds, if not thousands of new homes out here, and that's taking up good farmland. But we need more access to capital. We need to let our teachers and our firefighters and everyone else have access to capital so they can have that first home.
Thank you. Affordable housing is probably near and dear to everybody's heart right now. And people say, I don't do politics. I don't do politics. Well, you don't do politics, politics is gonna do you. And I would just ask you to ask them that question. If you could take what you're paying now for rent, would you be able to afford a better place? Or would you try to find something lesser for the same amount of money that you're paying right now? You can't. So what we have to do is, as a Congress member, we have to make sure we go back and reinstate the grants. Don't cut a lot of grants for affordable housing and to those opportunities, to those organizations that were providing those grants. Number one, we have to go do that to make sure people have access and know about those grants. Number two is, we have to make sure that the money is available. We do know that the money is available because if we can spend $2 trillion a day on a war, we can definitely make sure that people have housing. I think there's four things that I know I truly care about is to make sure that people have enough money to pay their bills, enough food on their table, a roof over their head if they get sick to be able to go see a doctor. Those are the basic tenets that we have to believe that we have to have in order to have a better life, to be a productive citizen. If you're sick, you can't work. You can't work, you can't afford to eat. It's a downhill slope. So how do we do that? It's to make sure that people do have jobs. Right now, this economy is horrible. It's down in the dumps. It's because of policy. And it all stems from foreign policy. And if we change the foreign policy, reduce our debt, because when our debt is high, it trickles down because we can't afford the programs to help people. So I would suggest that we remember that we go back and we make sure that we reinstate the grants that will help these organizations provide to people with first term and people who just need housing.
I agree with that. And the other thing that I think that we all know, we live in a place, we live in a portion of the United States that a lot of people want to move to. And a lot of them moved here because it was affordable, because if you lived in California, you lived in New York, you were selling your homes for millions of dollars, and you could come down here and buy a big house and your children be able to go to great schools, and you still have all this money left over. So we ended up with that. But then what was the biggest thing that hit us? Corporations being able to buy land, being able to buy homes. They were buying the houses up like this. It wasn't people that needed a home, that wanted, you and me, that wanted to live here. We live in here, now we want to move into a better house. No, it was the corporations buying up the house because they were moving into our towns and they wanted to have some place for their people to live. This is a big problem, and it's gonna get bigger because we got corporations that want to move here, but guess what? They're importing people. They're not hiring us. They're bringing people with them. And so as we go through things in our towns and these big corporations move here, I would say that we need to have a seat at the table with them and talk about what are they gonna do about the jobs? Are they gonna bring the people with them, or are they gonna let us have a little stake in these companies to be able to afford homes and everything? Because you're gonna get a big influx of what's happening in Nashville, and they're gonna be starting to move here. But try to be at the table. Do not let them make decisions that you're not at the table with.
I want to build on something that Dr. Holloway just mentioned. Corporations are buying up houses. A quarter of all homes, single-family homes sold last year, were bought by investors. That's broken into two categories. This is something I've thought about because, frankly, to be transparent, at the age of 31, I would have never been able to buy my house if it wasn't for the VA home loan. So a quarter of all houses being sold go to investors, broken into two categories: corporations and individuals for Airbnbs. So I have a bill on my website you can check out, Built on Stone Act. It does two things. The first thing it does is it introduces a vacancy tax. If you own property that you are not occupying because you are renting it out through Airbnbs, you're gonna pay a premium on that. The second thing this does is, for the first time in American history, we flipped the script. The US government, the question was, what can Congress do? We use eminent domain. We take back the houses Wall Street bought from underneath every single one of you. We put them into local land trust, and we release them back into the market 5% at a time so that we don't introduce market shock. Meanwhile, the houses that are sitting there, we rent out at affordable prices. This instantly brings down rent cost. It instantly brings down housing cost. If we're going to do something, we need to do something big. Because $500,000 for a house, no one can afford that. Thank you.
This next question will start with you, Mr. Sales. I look around this room and many of us would describe ourselves as seniors. And almost daily, we are hearing about the insolvency of Medicare and Social Security. And I think Medicare is set to run out of money by 2033, which, believe it or not, is 6 years from now. And obviously, this is something that the Congress is going to have to deal with. They have been very, very careful not to deal with it at all for many, many years, but that cannot continue much longer. So my question to you is, what responsibility does Congress have in fixing this problem and making this solution permanent?
So we actually have updated numbers on this, right? Social Security trustee came out and said Social Security will be insolvent by 2032. This means at that time, anyone receiving Social Security will only receive roughly 80% of what they're owed. That's not an entitlement. That is the money that you earned, you worked for, and you deserve. And fixing it is simple. My Mustard Seed Act does 3 simple things. The first is it says Congress can never touch Social Security again. The second thing is that it removes the Social Security income cap. If you make more than $185,000 a year, every dollar over that does not get taxed for Social Security. The last thing it does, capital gains. The way that the millionaires and the billionaires make their money never once gets touched for FICA. My bill says income is income. You do not get treated special. You are paying into it the same way that teachers do, that police officers do, that firefighters do, that every single working person does. These proposals have already been graded by the CPO. They make Social Security solvent for the next 75 to 100 years. And they actually allow us to potentially look at lowering the retirement age. So it's simple. What does Congress do about it? They do their job and they work for the people they're actually supposed to represent, not the 1%.
As a senior, that is one of the things that I find is so important. And it probably was important years ago because I had a mother, I had a grandparents, I had all of this. So, the one thing that I know that Congress has got to stop doing, and that is borrowing from Social Security. They need to pay back what they have borrowed. If they pay that back, we may have something to live on for a while. And I get so tired of everybody talking about Social Security becoming insolvent, Social Security not being there. We worked with this, the money is there. They have been using it. They need to stop using it and pay back what they have taken from it. And so one of the things that I would do and want to work on, definitely, is seeing how we can get some of that money back. I want y'all to know one other thing about me. I'm a rural girl. I come from West Tennessee, Benton County, Tennessee. So, in saying that, do you know how hard it is to live on Social Security in Benton County and other small and rural counties? We got to fight for our people. We gotta fight for our seniors. We gotta fight for our veterans. Because if we do not, everything will be lost.
Thank you again. So we know what the issues are. So I'm not going to keep repeating the issue or regurgitating that. The question is, how do we fix it? So my mother, she worked for 30 years for AT&T. For some of the people here, you might remember this. When you used to make a phone call, you have to call the operator and they would connect you. So that's what my mom did. She was a long distance operator. She was a switchboard operator. But she barely made $1,800 a month between her pension and her Social Security. Then she couldn't live off of that amount. And so that's where we came in. Luckily, she reinforced education and made me do well. So I was able to help her out. But the one way that we can make sure that Social Security is solvent is we have to reduce the deficit. Because what we're doing, they're using the money from these programs, they're called their programs, and they're paying the interest on these loans that we have out here. So if we can reduce the deficit as we did under the many Democratic presidents that we've had, at least the last 3 years, we can make sure that we can go back to a place that where if you work for 30 years, you do what you're supposed to, you should be able to live with dignity and own your own home. Be able to save a little money and spend some time with grandkids or your great-grandkids. But right now, the way that this world is going, we have to make sure that we start to tax the 1% or these corporations and they pay their fair share. That's how you pay for this. Reduce the deficit and make sure you tax the people who are supposed to be paying. That's the 2 things that we need to do. And we are afraid to do that for some reason because it's a political suicide. We need somebody that's up there that's gonna go in and make sure that Congress does not abdicate their duty and do what they're supposed to do. Thank you.
So the challenge with following three great folks is that I'm essentially gonna crib a lot of the great answers. We do need to lift the Social Security cap, absolutely. I think we need to increase the minimum wage, which you talked about. You increase that, we pay people more, there's gonna be more money going into the system. The federal government right now, our budget, 60 to 62% are sort of necessities, right? That's where your Social Security, your Medicaid, Medicare. Those things are in there, those are necessary. The problem is 15 to 17% is just interest. That's what we're paying for our national debt. We have almost $40 trillion in national debt. And so in the annual budget for this government, 15, 17% is going into interest. And you can't run a household like that. You would not run a household like that. So we have to figure out how to reduce the national debt, as Nancy said. We have to get out of these wars. We can't let this president take us into war again and again and again, and we have to get out of it. That will save money. And then we do have to tax the billionaires and the corporations that aren't paying their fair share. We gutted through Doge way too much, but one of them is the IRS. And why? Because President Trump doesn't want his buddies getting audited.
Yep.
And we need to have better audits of everyone, at every level. Right now, there are far too many people that are just saying, I'm not gonna pay this, I'm not gonna pay that, because they're never gonna catch me. And we need to have better enforcement. If you make the money, you need to do it. You need to pay the taxes, and that's gonna help.
Okay, excuse me. This is the very reason why I ran the first time for Congress and why I ran the second time. This is my number one issue. I warned people last year that this was coming, and they didn't believe me. Okay, I go to about every fair and festival you can possibly imagine. I speak to Republicans, independents, libertarians about this. And this is a concern to everyone. So I did get people to vote for me last year. Not enough, but I did get people to vote for me. So if you look at my card, the first thing on there is save and expand all programs for the most vulnerable. That includes Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and disability, and other programs too. These guys kind of touched on it. We need to tax the super rich, period. We have a budget, we need money in that budget, they need to pay their fair share. If we did that, we would have plenty of money for Social Security, for disability, for Medicare, for Medicaid, for utility assistance. Which, by the way, one of my neighbors who lives on the minimum as a disabled person just lost 60% of her utility assistance. And I have been on the phone for hours trying to figure out why they did this to her. Because I help my neighbors with stuff like this all the time. And like I said, this is the reason why I'm running, because I have dealt with these things on a personal level. We have a budget, and we need people in Congress who have lived below the budget line, poverty line, that's me. But another thing is that, excuse me, I lost my train of thought when I saw the red card back there. Another thing is that we need to just make sure we stop giving these people who are millionaires and not paying their fair share. Why are we giving them government contracts? That's a whole other question we could talk about. Thank you.
I have one more question, and then Tony, as far as I'm concerned, we can open it up to questions from the audience, and Ms. Berkman, unfortunately, you'll get the first shot. So,
Howard, could you tell them to hold the microphones up a little?
okay, everybody get that? Okay, I didn't realize we had any issue with trouble. Hold the mic closely, that helps us. And this question's complicated, but it's something that I think is a concern of all of us, and that is the fact that many rural hospitals in Tennessee are in trouble. And they are in trouble for a variety of reasons, one of the main reasons being that our legislature has refused year after year to expand Medicaid. That's not the only part. And I guess in a sense, what I'm asking you to do, or to consider are there things that Congress can do to save us from our own legislature? Because they obviously are not going to deal with the issue. So it's going to take congressional level, it's going to take sweeping reform on the federal level to ensure these hospitals, and there are so many of these places, like Benton County, Tennessee, that if that hospital closes,
Come on now.
people are gonna have to go to Clarksville or Nashville, and in case of a heart attack or a stroke, that's life and death. Just besides the economic engines that hospitals are in small communities. So with that in mind, let's brainstorm a little bit. What can Congress do to make that situation better in a place like Tennessee?
Well, we can stop the big ugly bill, from going into effect. Okay? When I ran in 2024, I was already hearing in counties like Fentress and Pickett and Clay County, all these very small, rural, beautiful little counties that I love, telling me they have to drive an hour and a half to get to the hospital. Now, that was a couple of years ago. And yes, it is because Medicaid, and they refuse to expand it in this state. They refuse to take the money half the time, which is just bonkers to me. But we need to make sure we have more Democrats in Congress, so we don't have these crazy bills passed. Because these people don't know how rural people live. Half of the people in Congress right now are millionaires. Do you guys know that?
Yeah.
Over half the people. We have 16 or 13 billionaires in the cabinet right now for Donald Trump. These people don't have a clue how the regular Americans live. So I say, and I was going to say this before, and this is what I forgot to say, we need to have two different budgets. Okay, we need to have a budget for survival programs, which is Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security and all those programs like HUD and utility systems. Those need to be in a separate budget to me. Okay? We need to stop globbing all this together and putting war and healthcare and all this stuff together. And by the way, we would have plenty of money for free healthcare right now if once again we would tax super rich and we would get the budget money up. So there's a lot of things we can do, but we have to stop this crazy legislation that we have right now in the House of Representatives. It's absolutely bonkers. Thank you.
So Tennessee has lost 18 rural hospitals in the past decade. We've got 21 counties that don't have a rural hospital. I went down last year when we had 14 counties. I went down to Wayne County. That was one of the hospitals in the district that was scheduled to close. And I got a tour of that facility, met with the administrators, and got to walk through. And what I learned was when a hospital like that's going to close, you're not just losing the care for that individual. You're losing the jobs, and you're losing the entire ecosystem. Because behind Wayne County Medical is assisted living. Behind that is memory care. Behind that is rehabilitation. And when the hospital goes, the whole ecosystem goes away. I learned that folks there, when they come into Wayne Medical with something very life-threatening, they won't take it. They've got to send them to Murfreesboro. And by the time you get to Murfreesboro, they said 9 times out of 10, they were full. You had to go to Nashville. You should not have to suffer a heart attack and drive 3 hours, and then have your family have to try and get a hotel in Nashville at the last minute. We have to keep these rural hospitals open. Part of that is the ACA subsidies. We've got to make sure that we protect the subsidies and expand that and build on what President Obama built so that we can expand healthcare. That is going to help in these rural communities. And I think what folks don't understand is that when rural communities are suffering and hurting, that's going to impact healthcare across the entire system, even in urban areas. So we've got 12 hospitals, I think, in this district that are scheduled to close. And we need to work also with the next administration in the General Assembly, in the legislature, whoever is in the seat. I'd like to be the Democrat in Congress that will come back and work with whoever our governor is in the state legislature to figure out how we can expand TN care as well. So that will be a priority.
Thank you. So I believe that Congress has an opportunity, the government has an obligation to take care of people. Healthcare is not a right. Healthcare is a right, it's not a privilege. Sorry about that. It is a right, and it should depend on how much money you make or where you live. But to answer some of those questions, what can we do? And I think we've started to do that. We started with some virtual consults with telehealth, telemedicine. That's one of the things we need to do, especially in rural healthcare. Even in the urban areas, there's still healthcare deserts. But one of the things that I advocate for in my community in health is opening two freestanding ER clinics. So we probably won't get hospitals back, but the goal is to make sure that we can have some healthcare in those areas. And I believe that the government should not they should force the states to make sure that they take care of people. Because that's why in certain issues, that we have the states, the federal government that is in place to make sure that the states do the right thing. And if you take it back to education, they force desegregation because they knew the states were not going to do the right thing. We also have to create some rural healthcare clinics, which are outpatients, and we need mobile health units. These are like vans that could travel people from back and forth really quickly when something an emergency arises. And we need to have paramedic-led triage. But what happens is you stabilize someone here, but they still have to go somewhere else. But the problem with that is that we're spending a lot of money doing these alternative things instead of addressing the root cause. It's making sure that we have accessible, affordable, and high-quality health care. And these are some of the things that I think that we can do to make sure that that gets done. Thank you.
My last position at Meharry Medical College was Senior Vice President for Community Engagement. And what that job was, I was the lead lobbyist for the state and for federal. I had to go back and forth to Washington, D.C. to try to get money for the hospital, for the veterans, because we wanted to put a CBOC on the campus at Meharry. It makes absolutely no sense that money comes into Tennessee to take care of us, and the state decides they want to put it other places. They want to close our hospitals, and now they think it's a big thing to have telemedicine, because that's the best that we can do at this point since you closed so many hospitals. And here we are, the hospital, the healthcare industry of America in Tennessee, but we are closing hospitals. What I think should happen, what Congress could do, if it was run and stabilized by Democrats, we would have the ability to take care of the sick. The only reason these hospitals are closing is because Republicans have been the ones that's closing them down. All I can say is I'm hopeful and I'm praying that people will get up and vote. And they will only do that if you will make the phone calls, and you would tap on the doors, and you would tell your friends and neighbors to go out and vote.
A Yale study in 2020 published in The Lancet stated that Medicare for All would save 68,000 American lives a year. We spend $15,000 per person in America. That's almost twice as much as any other developed nation, all of which use some form of universal health care. If the question is, what can the federal government do to force the states to have Medicare and Medicaid? It's to make it universal. 62% of Americans already agree that we should have some form of universal health care. This is already a popular decision to do. My healthcare bill would cost the median household in Robertson County $50 a month for healthcare. That's premium deductible copay. That is doctor visits, that is dental, that is vision, that is mental health. $50 a month, $600 a year. Before the redistricting, when I was the only candidate running, I also went down to the same hospital and I asked them, what is the problem? And they told me half of the people that come in here don't have insurance and never pay their bill. We switched to healthcare for all and every bill gets paid. rural hospitals stop closing, they can start expanding, they can start paying their nurses more. The solution to me is very simple. Better healthcare for all, that's cheaper, that benefits the rural communities by creating these hospitals with clear budgets. Thank you.
I think we probably have 30 minutes or so time left, Tommy, is that right? And so we want to give you a chance to ask your questions. If your question doesn't get asked, I'm sure the candidates will be here when we're done. Maybe you can talk to them individually, one-on-one, which I'm sure some of you are aware of. But let's open the floor up right now, and we'll get as many as we can in the limited time that we have. Other questions? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Do I get a mic? Don't worry, I can speak. Yeah, I can project. Immigrants are under attack now more than ever. With that, do you support the abolishment of ICE? And if you do, what does the abolishment of ICE mean to you?
Can we just get up?
Sure.
Okay. As a first generation American, this is a huge issue for me. Okay, my family came here from Yugoslavia, and it terrifies me. It makes me furious. I cry a lot, is what I see, because that could be my family. It could be me. I'm a birthright citizen. So yes, ICE has been so corrupted at this point. I think we should abolish it. Okay, that's my opinion. It is full of bounty hunters now. And we just had another man, I just read the article today, a man that's been here for 35 years, who's worked in construction for 35 years, was shot yesterday, or the day before, I don't know exactly. So yeah, ICE needs to go. My opinion is, all the money we're wasting on ICE, why don't we take that and hire more judges, okay? Get the system working the way it's supposed to. Take that money and use it for that. Because there are so many people that come here, they just want to work. They just want a better life. Okay, that's it. That's why my family came here. And yes, there are some criminals, and we have to hear the Republicans talk about that all the time. And yeah, if they're criminals and they need to go, they need to go. Okay? But the majority of the people are good, hardworking people. And I am sick and tired of seeing people treated with cruelty and not being treated as humans. So, yes, thanks for asking that question.
Anyone else care to ask this?
I'll be brief, yes. We have to undo the ICE system and the funding right now. And so we need to get rid of it. ICE is sort of a new division in the way that they've reconstructed after 9/11. So Department of Homeland Security, and what worked 25 years ago doesn't work today, because we have bullets and bigots and billionaires in office that are setting quotas, and they're using ICE as their personal sort of vendetta to deport people. So we absolutely have to undo the funding, and we have to reconsider how we set that funding up. So yes, I would undo it in its current form.
I agree. I think that the ICE has been weaponized, and it's not just weaponized against Hispanics, it's any immigrant of color. And as Lori referenced earlier, the person that was shot in Memphis, he was shot by ICE department, or whatever what they're called now, and he was a black person. So when they put this attack on Haitians, so now basically they're just reinstating the stop and frisk without having to create a law. And that's dangerous. That is very dangerous. Over, I think 900,000 people have been deported. Only 3% of those 900,000 were convicted of violent crimes. 3%. The rest are tax paying, family having, Christian or religious people going to work just trying to provide for their family. All of a sudden you go to work and you come home. You can't even come home because you're afraid of what may happen to you. My neighbor across the street from me, he's a teacher, but he teaches at a school that has about 80-85% Hispanic Latino population. He said he ran into one of his students that was, he hadn't seen in a while, that was 12 years old when he first came to the school in elementary. He spoke no English, but he's a solid B student now. And he's like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, well, I'm on my way to the store. So the student was like, man, I haven't been to the store in years. He's like, well, why haven't you been? He said, we can't, our parents won't let us go to the store because we're afraid that if we get caught, they'll take us away. So only one parent goes at a time. There is no way that a 12-year-old should have that on his mind. They should be thinking about that. They should be thinking about playing games and everything else that they're thinking about. This is ridiculous that we're in this state and that they have weaponized a department for the government that should be here to protect people. I think that it has just truly been a travesty of how it's been used, but that's why it's more important that we get the right people in these seats so that we can make sure that we allocate those money and those funds to where they're supposed to go, to help people, to have a better way of life. So, thank you.
I think everyone up here would agree that we need to abolish ICE. And I heard at one time he was thinking about renaming them NICE, National, whatever that was. But I agree wholeheartedly, it needs to go. But the thing that you gotta remember about what's going on now, we got to stop being so afraid. And I'm not talking about the people that are running for ICE, running from ICE. It's so many things that they make the boogeyman. And we get scared of every one of them, and we end up letting them take over our lives. We've got to stop being so afraid and speak out and speak up.
Yeah.
Because if we don't do it, they're gonna continue to do what they do. It is unbelievable how they have used ICE to separate families, to destroy families and communities. And do you know that even if you listen to what Representative Dixie said, he gave you a number of how many people that they took out. Do you know that Obama and Biden took out more, sent more back than that? But what they do, they sent ICE in the street to scare everybody. And they did a great job of it, because what they did was so hurtful. And I just gotta say, evil. Just evil. And so, while I'm saying I would abolish it and everything, I'm saying on the other side, even if it's not ICE, we got to stop being afraid of everything that they put out here. And we got to speak up and against it, including ICE.
I was at an event in Dixon the other day, and I actually had this conversation with a man wearing a MAGA hat. And I asked him, if ICE is about protecting the southern border, what are they doing in Minneapolis, 1,400 miles north of it? If ICE is about going after the people who are taking from the system and not paying into it, why are they using IRS records to track them down? If ICE is about going after the people who aren't contributing to our economics, why are they going to construction sites? If ICE is about going after the people who aren't doing it right, why are they in our courtrooms, taking people who are there going through the system the way they're supposed to? He didn't really have a response to me. And I said, I'll give you an answer. I want to do what one of your favorite presidents did. I want to allow these people to come out of the shadows. 1980s, Ronald Reagan gave amnesty to 3 million migrants. That's not a talking point, that's a Republican policy that I happen to agree with. And it's one that we can see again today. I think Lori mentioned something really smart, which is taking the funding that we're giving towards ICE and putting it into the judicial system. Funding the migrant judges that allow these things to actually get going. These people, as Dixie pointed out, are good people. 93% of the people in ICE custody aren't even convicted of a violent crime. Crossing the border is a misdemeanor. Overstaying your visa is a civil offense. We need to do better by all the people in this country. We need to get pathways to citizenship to those who are working hard and want to be a part of our communities. Yes, abolish ICE, replace it with a system that allows these people to join the communities that they are already working so hard to be a part of.
Another question? Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna, hit on the healthcare.
Yeah, right here.
For the healthcare, I've been dealing with stuff for like 8 years, and I just keep getting pushed through. They label you, you're done. How do we get out of that, 15 minutes, 10 minutes to spend with the doctor instead of getting, trauma care? I don't even know how many broken ribs I have. So I know they're not attached, they're not staying where they're supposed to, but it's normal. So how do we fix that part of the system, I guess, to look at, because this is everywhere. And then also this labeling of women, I was athletic, I was very athletic, I was very strong. I got hit on my way home. I lost my career. I was making almost $100,000 a year plus bennies. And, now I'm on Social Security. And I'm afraid, I'm gonna lose that too. I put in 30 years. But how do I get, how are we going to fix the care that we're actually getting at these hospitals? I know doctors want to give it. I know a whole bunch of them got out because they couldn't do what they were supposed to be doing. So.
One thing about healthcare and about doctors, when you go see doctors now, you got that 15 minutes with them, and the rest of that time, it's a 30-minute, they got 15 minutes and 30 at the most that they've got to get their records straight. Everything, and they have to put it in the records. They don't have the assistants to put it in the records. They have to put it in the records. That cuts down on the time that they're able to stay with us. Another problem that we have with our system is that doctors don't get paid very much. Now, I know everybody thinks that I'm a doctor and I'm getting a lot of money, and they get paid good, but not like they used to. Because of Medicaid and insurance and everything, they only get, where they might have gotten $100 at one time, they only get $18, $15, $13 for services like that. So what needs to happen is there needs to be something enacted where government steps in and do its job of making sure that we have good health care. And I'm so sorry that you're having to go through that, but it is the way it is. And I want you to know that a lot of doctors that I know, black doctors, guess what they did? They had to go, instead of taking money from Medicaid and Medicare, now they're charging $60 a month from a patient, so the patient can come in and see them once a month. Because if they came in to see them once a month, they couldn't get paid that from Medicaid or Medicare, or from the insurance company. So now we see a lot of doctors going out and being on their own.
Concierge, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I have now.
So, yeah, so
I don't
it's a
even
big,
use my Medicare.
big problem, a big problem. But how do we stop it? I don't know unless we can raise the levels that we're giving to doctors, and here in Tennessee, expand. And why they won't expand, I don't understand. Why they won't take the money.
Thank you. First of all, I'm so sorry you're going through that. I've been to millions of doctors in my life, and I understand that. When you're looking for an answer or someone to just listen to you. I do have a good doctor in Nashville I can tell you about. He will spend an hour with me and doesn't care who's in the waiting room. And I know where he works in the hospital at the Southern Hills Medical Center. They don't like it because they want the patients to get through. That's what they do. So it is hard to find a good doctor that's gonna listen to you too. And that is not always thinking about the money. But here in Tennessee, we have another real problem. We are losing doctors. Doctors are leaving the state. After Roe was overturned, a lot of doctors have had enough and they're leaving. So, I know up in the very northern part of the district, of the 6th district at least, people go to Kentucky, to the hospitals up there, to try to get better care. So,
Been to 5 states.
okay, yeah, I'm so sorry. I would love to talk to you afterwards, maybe get more details what you're going through. But it is hard, but don't give up, okay? It took me a long time to find this doctor.
I'm stubborn, just like she is.
Yeah, it took a long time to find the doctor I'm telling you about, so don't give up. Thank you.
I'll be brief. Thank you for sharing your question, and I'm sorry you're going through it. I wonder sometimes, you know, we call Obamacare, you know, the Affordable Care Act, call it Obamacare, and I wonder how much further we would have gotten if we had called it not healthcare reform, but health insurance reform. I think it's the insurance companies that sort of are the root of some of this.
Yes.
And so it sounds like part of that challenge is within the insurance industry, and I think that, you know, there was a case in Nashville recently of some fraud, and one of the companies, I think, was defrauded by $250 million, and it was only after they realized they were out $250 million did they start to investigate, right? You have to make a certain level of profit before you realize you're out 200, or you have to have a certain amount of profit to where you can let 200 million slide out the door before you actually start to investigate. And so I think that the insurance companies here, I think that the next Congress, and if Democrats are there, I think we need to evaluate how insurance is administered, because it's not sometimes the doctors, the individual doctors' fault. They're great doctors, and they're doctors that are by the book and punch the clock, but it's
They
the
don't have
insurance.
the time.
I think, and part of that's driven by insurance.
Yes.
The insurance company.
Or the for-profit facilities.
So I already named we need Medicare for all, right? That directly attacks the insurance issue. We also need to start investing in future doctors, in future nurses. It seems pretty simple to me that when you have a college education, you, on average, make $2 million more over your lifetime than someone with just a high school degree. At an easy 20% tax rate, that's $400,000. Government investing in public education has a direct economic return. And that's just the numbers. That's not talking about the extra nurses, the extra doctors, so that they don't have to just spend 15 minutes with you, so that there are more assistants who can help do that paperwork. And yeah, I've got a bill for that. My Open Door Act makes public college free like it used to be in some states. Because again, when we invest in the education, we invest in our own future, our economy does better, our people do better. So thank you so much for sharing that story with us. We know what we need to do. We just need to have the courage to do it.
Okay, I'll be very brief. Quickly, again, what's happening to you happens to a lot of people across the state. And what's happening is we have people using our ERs as primary care doctors. And we can't do that. And one of the reasons that we have a shortage of doctors is because there's only so many seats for residencies. And the study has been shown that when people do their residencies, they normally stay where they get their residency. So once they fill the seats here in Tennessee, they go somewhere else. We need to expand how many seats and make sure that we attract better students to fill those seats and make sure they want to stay. We need to incentivize physicians to go into our rural areas, because this is not something that's just privy to Tennessee, this is happening all across the country. So we should incentivize them to go into the rural areas to make sure that they can set up practices, and even if it is just family care or internal medicine, at least to get some level of basic care to keep you healthy. Preventative medicine is probably the one best thing that we can provide to make sure we have a healthy community, that we have a healthy workforce. And so I would encourage us as on the congressional side to push for something push for a bill that would incentivize doctors to go into rural areas, but also incentivize these schools to open up more seats so we can have more doctors in these areas.
Tony, anything you'd like to say as we close?
I have one topic that we didn't discuss that I'm curious about. Can we talk very briefly about the advent of data centers?
So,
Yeah.
let's begin that.
Okay, this is a huge problem in the rural areas, okay, huge. In Cumberland County, they're fighting one right now from coming in, they're trying to sneak it in, because that's what they do. They know it causes problems, so they don't wanna tell anybody about it, right? They're sneaking them in, and the people don't even know it's happening. They already have 2 crypto, centers that snuck in, and they don't even know how they got there. Pickett County, which is one of the sweetest little areas you ever want to see, I think it's the smallest county in Tennessee, actually. They've had an AI center up there for maybe 2 years now, and it has pretty much kind of destroyed the county with the noise and the pollution and the water and everything. So what I think we need to do is, and some counties are doing this, which I love to hear, they're not allowing anything to come in for at least a year or 2. Okay, they said no more until we figure out what to do about regulations. Now, we should have figured out regulations a long time ago. I don't know who is encouraging all these people to come here. I don't know if it's Governor Lee or what's going on, but it's absolutely crazy what's happening there. So that's one thing we can do is just say, nope, you're not gonna be able to build here until we figure out regulations. Also, the people are not getting a chance to vote on this in these communities. And I think that's huge. I think that people should have a chance to do that. So that's 2 things we can do.
So a lot to say about data centers because they are sort of a scourge in certain places. I don't know if we're going to eliminate all data centers. We have data centers that operate every day in this country. The old technology needs to go. We need to replace that with new technology. If we get rid of data centers and that would eliminate all the Amazon packages on our front step, I would gladly do that. I'm going to hear about that later from my wife. But we have to regulate them. And data centers are responsible for international commerce, interstate commerce, your checking, your medical records, etc. They're going to be here. We have to make sure that they're energy independent. We can't tap that into the local utilities. Our rates should not go up because of it. They should be required to have offset generation. I would recommend renewable energy. We need to have them use their own water source. They should not be pulling from an aquifer. They should not be pulling from a water system that the rest of the community uses. There's some great technology out there. There's a great data center being proposed, I say great, in the White Sands Missile Testing Range. This is in New Mexico. They have 20,000 acres. And it's going to be completely energy independent. It has fiber, and it's not going to use any water. It has a closed loop cooling system and air cooled. That's where we should be putting data centers. They should not be next to Fisk University. They should not be next to our zoos. They should not be in our neighborhoods. Now, I will tell you, we'll regret a lot of those things, and there are states that have already put in full moratoriums. I think Maine is one. Other counties have put in moratoriums in places, and they're studying them. It's not the role of Congress to ban an entire industry. I know that it feels like you want that to be, and you want to do it, but the role of Congress should be to call these data center companies in, swear them in, and use the power of, putting them under oath essentially, have them come in and testify, and Congress should be conducting these studies, because what happens right now is these communities that undertake it, and Nashville just started the process, Nashville's way behind on the process. Nashville just started this and they voted to advance a bill to put a moratorium in place for a couple of months. It should be at least a year. But certain communities are doing these studies, and data center companies are sending their operatives and their experts and their engineers in to say, oh, there's nothing wrong with them, you guys should approve them. And those decisions need to be at the local level. And I know Mayor Bradley may have some thoughts on that as a mayor. Some of those decisions are local. We need to leave those at the local level. That's not necessarily the role for Congress. Congress should conduct the studies, do the research, and publish it and put it out there, and then establish best practices so that the local individual communities can make their own decisions.
I essentially agree, like you said, you go second or third, you take all the good answers. But the one thing that I do agree with is they do have a closed loop system.
Yes.
It sounds good until there's a leak. And then when there's a leak, then there's a problem. And if you do a study, unfortunately, there's gonna be some consequences that come from that study, but it's gonna really impact people's lives. So where we live is a landfill, and unfortunately, when they put some of these things here, they put them in poor neighborhoods, black neighborhoods, and rural areas. So they're maximizing their space in these urban areas. So guess what's next? Because you have the land. So I applaud what Davidson County is doing right now to try to be somewhat proactive, to put some regulations around it, to make sure there's no buffers, to regulate the size. But unfortunately, there is going to be a place that we have to go. But right now, we have an opportunity to decide where they are going to go and how we're going to regulate them. And again, it is a local issue that has to be driven by the local people. And even in the state legislature, I'm waiting on them to give us some directive on how we should do this and we can handle this as a state. But as Lori decided, I want to answer you. I'll tell you exactly how to get here. Bill Lee has billed Tennessee as business friendly. We're open for business and we're going to give you whatever it takes to get you here. You won't have to pay any taxes. So I think that if we go back to what we were saying, the number one thing, if we tax the people who we're supposed to tax, it would solve a lot of the problems that we have, and it may prevent some of these companies from interfering and interjecting themselves in our communities, because this is environmental racism at its best, and we can stop it right now.
I'm gonna say something that's gonna be a little bit different than what they're saying, although I agree with you. I agree with all of you. I was talking to Ray Carroll today. We talked about data centers. I agree there should be some regulation, and I do agree that they need to be at the local level. But here again, I don't know if you all remember every time you hear the president talk about those windmills. He's scared to death of those windmills. And I don't know why he's so afraid of them. I know they are awful big. I mean, these things are huge. I went to Arkansas earlier, was it this year? Last year. And when we drove into this little town, I looked up and all I could see was, there was a windmill, there was a windmill, there was a windmill. And I was like, I do not believe it. I haven't seen a windmill except when I was in Hawaii. And here, this little town in Arkansas, about 35 minutes outside of Memphis, has windmills all over the place. So when I got to where I was going, I asked my friend, I said, what in the world are all these windmills? He says, yeah, they came into town and they offered the mayor a deal he couldn't turn down. They got money. Everybody in the town got money. And then he said, well, we're waiting to have them turn them on. They're gonna turn them on in May. And then I can tell you what my bill is, because they said my bill's supposed to be lower. The bill was 30% lower that next month. I hadn't asked him anymore, because I was like, 30% lower on your electric bill? Yes. But we have to look at some other alternatives too, because those data centers, they're taking the electricity and they're charging sometimes back to us.
Yes.
The water is taking millions of gallons of water per day, drying up some areas. We have got to look, if we're gonna be putting data centers in, we've got to look at how we're going to take care of them and how we're gonna be able to afford them. And it might need to be a windmill somewhere. He might need to be scared of it. But we got to do something different when it comes to data centers. And another thing I do believe for the rural areas, there are farmers that are needing money desperately. They haven't received any monies from the federal government. Why? So they can't pay their bills, they can sell their land. And you got to be watchful about this. What are we gonna do about that? And sometimes they end up selling, and it ends up turning into a data center where you don't even get to see it, because these things are noisy, very noisy. And I'm telling you, it is bad, and they are all right about them. But if we're gonna have them, we need to look at other ways of being able to take care of them.
So you should know by now if I'm gonna last, I'm gonna say something more extreme than the rest. I'm gonna push back on it should be a local issue. I'm gonna push back on we shouldn't have a federal ban. And this is why. Let's look at the numbers first. America has 10 times more data centers than any other country. At a computational level, we have 3 times more than the next one, China. We already have enough data centers here. If we allow it to be done at the local level, all you're going to see is more progressive states ban it, and more conservative states like Tennessee allow it. When we talk about this closed loop cooling system, I want to be clear, those are not what they sell you. Closed loop cooling systems eventually run out of the water that they have in it, and they have to replenish it. And the water that is left in there becomes contaminated, and they dump it. So when we have already more data centers than any other country, when we have more computational power than any other country, yeah, we need to put a pause. We need to say minimum 2-year ban on these so that we can start looking at how to do them safely. And y'all, the last thing I want to talk about is the fact that the international banking community, the people that the federal banking system here reports to, has started sounding the alarms. AI companies are shadow borrowing. This means that they're taking out debt that they're not keeping on their books, and they are over their heads in this debt. I said this at the very beginning. The bubble, the AI bubble that we are witnessing right now is twice as much as what the housing bubble was in 2008. And who got left paying for that? We did. The purpose of the federal government is not to stand up for businesses, it's to stand up for us, the working people. So what can the federal government do about these data centers? We can say there needs to be a pause on them. If you want to do a data center better, retrofit it. Absolutely require it to use renewable energy. Absolutely require it to use a non-water coolant system, which they have, they're just more expensive.
Exactly.
So the companies doesn't want to use them.
Exactly.
But if we're gonna have these things, we need to make sure that they are working for us, not against us.
That's right.
So yes, I absolutely push back on it needs to be a local thing. I absolutely push back on the federal government doesn't have a place in governing it. Thank you.
Let's give our candidates a hand.
All right, so, thank you to all of our congressional candidates that have been here tonight. We really appreciate you coming, and speaking with all those who have shown up. But it is my honor to introduce Tamara Babindam, who is running for State House against Sabi Kumar. Give her spiel, and then we will all go and celebrate and do our thing. So Tamara?
I wasn't really expecting to do this. So I'm Tamara Babindam, and I'm running for District 66, which is Robertson County. I want to send Sabi Kumar into retirement. I do not believe he has done a good job representing all of the people of Robertson County from the day that he was elected to office in 2014. And the other thing I want to say is I want to thank everyone on the stage for wearing my pins. Many of you have them out there too. So I'm really excited about this race. I'm running sort of a grassroots campaign in this county, and people are really getting behind it. It's exciting. We are, going to be getting out very soon with canvassing efforts. Postcards are going out now. We have yard signs. Yard signs are out there if you'd like. If you don't have one, if you want one, 2 or 10. I've got plenty of yard signs. So I've only been here 3 years, so I do not have the name recognition that Sabi Kumar has. But I want to send that. I want to send it home. And I chose, purple is my favorite color, but I really am using that color because the path forward is with red and blue working together. Okay? So we are really trying very hard, and people really respond to that when I use that when I'm canvassing. And it is, I am for Robertson County. I am for everyone. And if, winning is a good thing, I mean, I will be a great legislator, I have no doubt about that. But it's an opportunity for the people of Robertson County to see a Democrat running a solid race, and there will be more on the ticket up and down the ballot in 2 years.
All right, well, we thank you for your attendance tonight. The candidates will be outside shaking hands, handing out materials if you would like to meet with them, talk more. So again, thank you for your attendance, and we're gonna call it a night, I guess.